So I would say we start. Welcome everybody to our Pervasent and Nomasis Partner Webinar. My name is Nadine and I'm pleased to introduce to you Michael from Pervasent and Tiziano from Nomasis, who will be presenting today. Pervasent and Nomasis have maintained a very good partnership for many years, and that is also one of the reasons to do a joint webinar today. Today's webinar is about how to make meetings easy and secure with Pervasent Teams and Board Papers. The session lasts about 30 to 45 minutes, and please note that during the presentation your microphones are set to mute, but you may of course post questions during the sessions through the chat functions to the host, and these questions will then be answered at the end of the session. So let's take a closer look to the agenda. First of all, a short introduction of Nomasis. Mostly all of you know us already. Then an introduction of Board and Team Papers. What are the differences between these two products? Use cases and a live demo. And at the end, questions and answers. So now I'd like to hand over to Tiziano to shortly go through the overview of Nomasis.
Thank you, Nadine. As you already know, Nomasis, we don't need to go too deep into the details. We'll show you a short extract from our current company presentation to highlight the major changes we did in our way of working in the past few months. You for sure all have heard of our managed services we name Mobile Operation Center, which we'll have a deeper look in the next slide. Next to those, of course, the well-established engineering and consulting services are still a main part of our daily business. Also new on our slides are our uniques. The uniques themselves are not new. We live them since the company was founded. But we think they are very important to show you in what we believe. And last but not least, the focus you probably all know is set on cybersecurity, end user, and modern workplace management. So let's have a deeper look into our managed services. So now, where does Pervasent fit in our company strategy and our managed services? Our Mobile Operation Center is divided into 4 different pillars with all kinds of different services behind them. The 4 sections are procurement, infrastructure, product assistance, and end-user services, and Pervasent is located in the product assistance section. In this section, it's all about support, maintenance, and operation of apps, software, and hardware. This was just a short extract from our company presentation. If you want to go into the details about our different services, just let us know, and we'll set up a one-to-one meeting to look at the details. So let's take a closer look at Pervasent with Board Papers and Team Papers and how it works. Michael, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Tiziano. Let me just quickly change the screen and show my screen. So good afternoon, everyone. Warm welcome from our side as well, from the Pervasent side. Thank you for the introduction to the Nomasis team. I'm Michael, as Tiziano said, and thank you all very much for tuning in. In this webinar, we will first talk a little bit about our company and give you some background about Board Papers and Team Papers. And then we will do a live demo of Team Papers to show you the actual product live and in action. I would like to just mention one thing early on. We will be recording the session and we will send a recording of the session to all meeting attendees after the webinar. You can ask questions in the chat, so please feel free to pose your questions. We will make sure to have enough time at the end of the webinar to answer all those questions. Pervasent was founded in 2008. This means we have been around for 15 years now. And I would just like to highlight a few milestones. In 2011, we introduced and sold Board Papers for the first time for a customer in the UK. So Board Papers has been in the market for many years now. In 2014, we started the cooperation with Nomasis, and we have been working closely together ever since. And in 2019, we launched our second product, Team Papers, which Nick is going to present in just a few minutes. As you know, Microsoft is putting a lot of emphasis on Microsoft Teams, and we do our best to follow closely on what's going on and make sure that we are always on top of feature development. We see more and more organizations roll out Teams, and that's why we constantly work on new features and improvements. And I would also like to point out that most of the new features that we implement in Board Papers and Team Papers actually come from existing clients. So we listen to our clients and their needs and suggestions. Today, you can find us just about anywhere in the world. We have clients in more than 35 countries, and we have a very strong presence in Europe. I am based in California, where our headquarters is based, but we also have an office in Sweden. So we cover basically all time zones in the world when it comes to support. We work with large organizations and small and medium-sized companies in the governmental sector, private companies, as well as nonprofits. Now I would like to show you what solutions Pervasent can offer for meeting organizers and meeting attendees. Why did we come up with these products? So we see that meetings today are hard. Setting up agendas and preparing for meetings is time-consuming. Printing documents and shipping them manually is expensive and produces a lot of paper waste. And we believe that emailing documents isn't the best solution either, as you never know if people read the email on time, do they have the right email and print out the right documents before they go to the meeting. In a nutshell, last-minute changes in meeting documents can be really challenging. And this is where we come in, and this is where Board Papers and Team Papers provide a solution, because our products make meetings easy and they are a secure and sustainable collaboration tool for all sorts of meetings. You can use them for in-person meetings and of course also for remote meetings, since we are mainly meeting remotely these days. Our clients, so all the organizations that use Board Papers and Team Papers, tell us that our products provide a great paperless meeting experience and that they can reduce the amount of paper waste in their organizations and thus also achieve their sustainability goals. The meeting organizers who used to print and ship documents manually, they tell us that Board Papers and Team Papers can cut the amount of time that they need to set up agendas and to prepare for meetings in half. With more and more people working from home, today more than ever, organizations need a secure and simple collaboration tool that enables meeting attendees to annotate meeting materials, vote on resolutions, and sign documents. Our motto is simplicity. Nick is going to show you all of this in greater detail during the demo, so I just want to point out a few of the main features. Documents are automatically pushed to the user's devices. A book-like interface makes it very easy to navigate Board Papers and Team Papers. You can annotate documents, you can quickly mark them up, and you can share your annotations with other people on the meeting. We have electronic voting and electronic signing, and the deployment is very easy. It's just a question of a few hours to get started with Board Papers or Team Papers. In addition to simplicity, security is equally important to us. We don't host the data, only you have full access and control of your data. Documents of old meetings in Board Papers and Team Papers are automatically archived, so they are never lost. And again, Pervasent has never access to the documents on the app, only you will have access. This, of course, raises the question, where are the documents? So organizations store their data either on their on-prem SharePoint for board papers or in their Microsoft M365 tenancy for board papers and team papers if you use board papers on the cloud. I would now like to just show you a few of the user groups, of the main user groups that we see and the meeting types. And on this slide here, you can see our main user groups. So as the name suggests, boards are of course still, or are of course, one of our main user groups. But this list here on this slide gives you an idea of what kind of meetings and groups actually use board papers and team papers. And you can see that it's about a wide range of meeting types and user groups that can use our product. So the sky is the limit, if you will. In a nutshell, board papers and team papers are an easy-to-use meeting tool for everybody who works in the Microsoft ecosystem, for meeting attendees, and for meeting organizers. With more and more companies striving to abide by environmental, social, and corporate governance standards, a paperless meeting app is an important tool for achieving sustainability goals. Board papers and team papers from Pervasent make meetings easy, secure, efficient, and sustainable. As I said, we have two products, and Pervasent's team papers and board papers are very similar. So the features are basically identical. The question is more where the meeting organizers will work. It's either in SharePoint or in Microsoft Teams. I'm going to hand it over to Nick now, who is going to elaborate a little bit on this and dive into details about the two products. And then he is going to do the live demo for you of team papers. Nick, can I hand it over to you?
Thank you, Michael. So the difference between board papers and team papers is really where the meeting organizer, be it the board secretary or a PA, works. So if you're working in Microsoft Teams, it is very natural to start there, where you can have your existing teams. You can create ad hoc teams for different projects and easily add team papers to those teams. If you have a more traditional board, your main board for your company, maybe one or two different committees, maybe an executive committee or a management committee, and those don't really change over the year. You can start out in SharePoint and you can create those boards and committees upfront, and you assign the people to them. And that is for board papers. So I'm going to start off by showing you what team papers looks like, and I will point out where there are some differences between the two. So let me just first share my screen. So this should look familiar. This is Microsoft Teams. You have your different teams and channels here on the left. And for this particular channel, I have added a Team Papers tab. This is very easy to do. You can add it to any of your teams. Once you have installed Team Papers, you just click on Add tab, and here Team Papers will show up as an option to be added to any of your teams. And the nice thing about team papers is that the permissions will be inherited from that team. So anybody who is a member of, in this case, the Pervasent team, and who can see this general channel will be able to see the team papers tab and see all the meetings therein. So here I can see my meetings. It's very easy to click on plus new event to create a new meeting. And I'm going to go through some of these fields here, but let me just open up an existing one so we can see some representative data. So when you create a meeting, you have lots of fields that are available to you. To make it easy for you to get started, most of the fields are optional. Only ones with a little red star are required. So we need to give the meeting a title. It's a meeting, so it needs to have a date and a time associated with it. Here I can check a little box to make it a Teams meeting. That means it's going to show up on people's calendars, and you automatically get a link for the audio and video conference. This feature here is unique to Team Papers. It does not exist for Board Papers at the moment. If you're not doing a virtual Teams meeting, you can put in a location where you want to meet. So that could be the name of the conference room or an address or anywhere where you're going to have your offsite meeting. You can put in the notes that you want to convey to the meeting attendees, and then list different names of people who should be present. In the body center, apologies that they cannot attend. If you have any guests beyond the usual board or committee members who are going to be attending. Again, these are optional fields, so you don't have to fill them out if you don't want to. Next up, we have a required field, which is called cover style. So in the Team Papers app, and we'll look at that as the second part here of the demo, the app for the meeting attendees, each meeting is represented by what looks like a book. And these books have a cover, and you can choose here from what style you want to have for that cover. The system comes with about 25 different built-in styles with some different graphics, but you can also customize these. So if you want to add your own company logo to it to really make the meetings look like your own, you can easily do that, and we can also assist you with that process. Now, the reason for having different styles is that if you belong to multiple teams or multiple boards and committees, having different styles from them means that at a glance, you can see what type of meeting this is. Next up, we have something called app visibility. And this is a simple workflow that you can make use of. Because when you first create the meeting, maybe you don't have all the meeting material ready. Maybe you're waiting for some documents for some contributors, or the agenda is still being worked on. And it would be confusing to send out the meeting in a half-finished state or with a partial set of documents to the meeting attendees. So what you can do is you can start out in what we call unpublished mode. This means you can upload the documents as you receive them from different contributors. You can make changes to the agenda, but nothing is going to be visible in the Board Papers and Team Papers app quite yet. But then when you have everything uploaded and ready to go, you can first switch it to preview if you want to check it out yourself, and also any other designated people. They can open up the meeting inside the app and make sure that everything is looking good before you send it out to the entire group. And that is when you set it to published. At that point, everybody will be able to see all the information in the app. Now, you don't have to go through each of these steps. If you have everything ready to go, or maybe this meeting is a quick one, you just have 1 or 2 documents, you can just go straight to published, just to make it easier for you if you want to. The apps that the meeting attendees use will download and store the documents in a secure manner inside those devices. And you can decide here how long you want those documents to reside on the devices. And this is just so we don't fill them up with years worth of meeting documents. On the server side here in Microsoft Teams or in SharePoint, you have terabytes of storage, so there's no problem there to keep all your meeting documents, having a central archive for all those documents inside Teams or SharePoint. But we just want to manage them on the devices, and this is how you decide how long it should reside on that device inside the app. So that is how you create a meeting. Another way to create a meeting is to select an existing one, and then you can copy it. Now, this is great when you have meetings that have agenda items that are very similar from one meeting to the next. And instead of having to retype all those agenda items each time, you can just copy the last month's meeting, and then you can just change the date for the meeting or make any other minor edits. So that's another time-saving feature. Next, let's take a look at the agenda. So here I can see the meeting name, the date, and all that information I entered on that previous screen. And here at the bottom of the page, I have the agenda. So I've got my agenda items, introductions, sellers recap, buyer discussion. We have the numbering of the agenda items, 1, 1.1, 1.2. We see we've got some documents associated with these agenda items. And over on the right-hand side, for some of the agenda items, we have a question or a resolution that the meeting attendees can vote on from within the app. Creating agenda items is quite easy. I just click on Add Agenda Item. I can put in my own prefix, so that's the numbering of the system for your agenda. If you have a simple agenda like the one we have here with 1, 1.1, 1.2, 2, 2.1, simple numbering orders like that, you can have the system automatically number it for you. But if you have other ways to number your agenda items, if they have letters or other things that are a little bit more complicated, you can type in your own prefix there. The subject is the subject of the agenda item. There's a field for a comment. Here you can put in the name of the presenter, for example, or it could be the time slot that this agenda item should run from 4 to 4:30, or any other comment that you want to explain this agenda item beyond what fits in this single line subject. And this is all visible to the attendees inside the app. Typically, you would associate one or more documents with an agenda item, but you can also refer to a web page. So you can put in a URL here to any web page on your internet or on the internet, and that will be opening it up inside the Team Papers app, so the meeting attendees can view and interact with that web page without having to leave the app. We have some customers who use that if they have live financial reporting pages on their intranet. They can just link to that instead of having the board secretary take a screenshot of it and uploading that screenshot as a static image. Other customers or uses for this could be to link to a survey tool or other information on the internet that would be relevant to this particular agenda item. Lastly, level, that is to support hierarchical agenda items. So agenda items can have sub-items and sub-items, etc. So I just click Save and Add More, and that's how I build up my agenda. Once I have all my agenda items created, the next step is to upload documents. The easiest way to do that is just to drag and drop documents. I can drag one or more documents and then just drop them on the right agenda item where they belong. Another way is I can click on the Upload Documents button here, pick something from my computer. I can pick something from the channel in Teams, or I can pick something from OneDrive. And these documents can be PDFs. It can also be a Word document. And if I select a Word document, the system will automatically offer to convert that to PDF for me. And if I choose this option to upload individual documents, I have to select which agenda item should that document belong to. Whereas if I'm dragging and dropping, then it knows based on where I'm dropping the document, which agenda item that should be. So that is uploading the document. And next up, I can enable voting for any agenda items that need it. Just paste in a question. I can change these as options to anything I want. And this is what it looks like. So here we can see approve this agreement. We can see that there's 0 votes for yes, no. There's 1 vote for amendment and 0 votes for table for next meeting. And if I click on the results link, I can see the names of the people, the timestamp, and any comments that they had when they cast that vote. And the voting can be done from within the app, or you can also vote from within Teams here. So I can quickly just cast my vote, add any comments, and then that will be recorded inside the system. So that is the basic process that you go through to create your meeting, add your agenda items, upload documents, associate them with agenda items, and then optionally enable any voting. So it is not more difficult than that. We do have some other features to assist you in this whole process. So once you have created the meeting, you may want to let your meeting attendees know that the information is now available. If you're a board secretary or a regular meeting organizer, you probably have a mailing list already inside Outlook that you can use. And you can, of course, continue to use that and communicate with your board members. But we also have a built-in feature here where you can click on email meeting attendees, and then we'll automatically pick up all the names of the people who have access to this team. You can adjust this list and add or remove people from it if you want to. And then we have a couple of templates. The most useful one is probably the agenda. So this will take the agenda for the meeting and attach it as an email. It also has the details about the meeting itself, and it lists the names of the documents that are part of this meeting. It's not going to attach the documents themselves because that will be insecure to send by email. So the documents are securely sent directly through the app. But this will give the meeting attendees a sense of how much information are they going to have to read to prepare for this particular meeting. And then I just send it either from Outlook, or I can send it straight from SharePoint. We also have some other templates if you update a document or reminding people that they should vote for something in the meeting. And when it comes to updating documents, that is a really powerful feature of board papers and team papers, because often you have changes to documents or amendments that happen after you send out the initial version. And that is always a pain to manage, because if you send them out by email, maybe one of the emails end up in your spam folder and you never know if you're reading the latest version of a document. But here, as the meeting organizer, all you need to do is upload the revised version of the document, keep the same file name, and the system will recognize that there's a new version of this document and make sure that all the meeting attendees will be getting that updated version, and that is going to be visible inside the app. So now we've created the meeting. We have notified the meeting attendees that the material is available. And now that you have the meeting, you may want to be taking some meeting minutes. So we have a feature for that as well. What you can do is you can download the agenda as a template in a Word document that has spaces for recording your decisions and any notes in the meeting. Or if you'd like to use OneNote, you can do that as well. And it has the same template here. So here we will see the name of the meeting, all the meeting details, all the agenda items. We can see the attendees here, so you can easily check off who's been present at the meeting. And here are places for adding any notes, recording any decisions, assigning tasks that people have taken on as a result of this meeting. And this is just a template, so you can make any changes you want to this. And if you're using the Word option, same thing there. It's a Word document where you can delete entire sections or rearrange them in any way you want. This is really just a tool for you to not have to retype everything that the system already knows about. And as you can see, if you have a voting item here, for example, the approve agreement, it automatically imports all the tallies for those votes for you. So that is the meeting minutes function. And let's return back to the meeting list. So we got all our meetings here. We also have a concept called portfolios. So portfolios are great for documents that are not tied to a single meeting. So that could be rules and bylaws, policy documents, HR documents, things that you want your board or committee members to have access to at all times. They look and work very similar to meetings. The main difference is that they don't have a date associated with them. And instead of calling it agenda, these are just content items that you attach. But it works the same way. You can drag and drop documents straight into the agenda. You can move documents around between the agenda items or content items, rearrange everything. So that's something that could be useful for those more evergreen documents that you want your board members or meeting attendees to have access to at all times. So this is team papers. This is the view for the meeting organizers to create meetings, work on agendas, and do that preparation work for the attendees. Let me just quickly show you. So this was team papers. We're starting from the context of a team And if I go in here and I look at Manage Team, I can see these are the people who have access to all the meetings that I've set up here for Team Papers. Here is a quick look for board papers. Here I've got set up all the different boards and committees for my organization. And they are not tied to Teams in any way. I just create new boards and committees straight into in the UI here. And then I manage permissions for each one of those boards and committees manually. So this is a good way if you just have your main board, a couple of committees, and they don't change all that frequently. But once I open up a board, like the board of directors here, you're going to see this looks identical to what it did for board papers inside the meetings themselves. So the difference really comes down to where do you start? Do you start from a Teams perspective, or do you want to start from your boards and committees that you have created manually? And this is the view again for the board secretary. So next, let me show you the view for the meeting attendees. And I will change screen to this one. So the board papers and team papers apps are available for all the different platforms. It's available for Windows computers, laptop, desktop, Surface tablets, iPad, iPhone, Android tablets, Android phones, and even for Mac computers. I'm showing you here the iPad app, and here you can see those covers. And if I scroll here, you can see some of those different styles that are available in the system. And on these covers, you can see the meeting date, you see the location, and those notes that we added on the server side to let people know who's going to be present or who's going to be in attendance. We can see that this is the board of directors. We see the name of the meeting. We got 10 documents in here, and I know these documents are going to reside on my device for another 27 days. The little dot here in front of those documents indicate that there's at least one unread document. And this red wax seal that has this broken impression means I've already opened this meeting and I've started to reading something, but I haven't read them all yet. So let me just open this document. And here I'm going to see my agenda on the left-hand side. And I can just look at an agenda item. It will go straight to that particular document, and then I can start reading it. And here you can see some of the notes that I've made previously. Let me go to a new page. And here at the top of the page, I always have access to my annotation tools. So I can use the pencil to mark up documents. I can use a highlighter to highlight the text. I can also add text notes. And I can even add text straight onto the page. And let me drag down to the page. And you can change colors, of course. And these notes are by default private to you. But if I click on this little figure here, it's going to turn into 2 people. And that means now being shared with all the people in this meeting. So this is a great way if you want to highlight something that there's going to be a discussion about in the meeting. And you can do that by just sharing the note with your colleagues that way. But by default, everything is going to remain private to you. So you don't have to worry about making private notes. Once I made these notes in the document, I can bring up this list here with a little pencil icon at the bottom. And this will show me a list of all the different notes in this particular document. And this is great when you're sitting in the meeting itself and you want to make sure that you want to bring up any questions or any comments that you had and bring them up in the right context. So instead of having a stack of papers in front of you with little sticky notes or dog-ear pages, just bring up this list and you can follow along as you're going in the document and be sure to bring up the questions and comments that you had in the right context. Returning back to the agenda, we can see some other indications here. You can expand and collapse different sections if you have a very large agenda. You see that there's some blue dots in front of some of these documents that indicates that those are unread. Once you've read them, then the dot disappears. We get a little checkbox here that is for the voting. So if I click on that, it's going to pose the question, should we fund this? I can just say yes, add any comment, and then that will be recorded on the server. Once I have voted, that checkbox will turn into one of these pie charts. So if I click on the pie chart, it's going to show me the current tallies for this particular voting item. Note that you don't see the names of the people who voted here. So that way you can maintain vote secrecy during the meeting if you want to. But as we saw before, those names and timestamps are recorded on the server, so you always have a permanent record of that. So that is the voting feature. Next up, we can do electronic signatures. So if I click on the signing tool, it tells me I have 4 pages to sign in this particular document. Let me go to page 17, which I have not yet signed. And let me just add my signature here. And then I can continue reading my document. And if I go back here now, it's going to tell me that I have now signed page 17 and I can proceed with page 20. And once I've signed all the pages, then this signature tool will change, so I know where I'm at, what I've done, and what I still need to do in this particular meeting. This little talk bubble here, that is the agenda item comments that we saw on the server side, so you can add any notes or comments for an agenda item to explain it. You can view a document by thumbnails, and that's one way to navigate your document. A different way to navigate is if the document has a table of contents, you can do that. Go straight to a particular page. Or you can type in a number. So if you want to go to page 15 in a document, that's straightforward. What I think is more interesting is that we have a concept of a global page number. So if you want to discuss a particular thing on a page, you can tell the other board members that, hey, I'm on global page number 106. And then they can just type that in. So you don't have to tell them, I'm on agenda item 2, document 3, page 5. Or if someone else tells me, let's go to global page number 50. And then everybody will be on the same page and be able to interact and read the same contexts. Down here, we have a sharing feature. This is by default turned off. For security reasons, because if you can email these documents, then they leave the secure confines of the board papers and team papers systems, and you don't have control over where those documents go next. So you have to enable that specifically. So here, email is disabled, but I've allowed printing, for example. And if you select printing, you can decide to include your annotations when you print. You can even print all the documents in this pack. So if somebody really likes to have paper instead of electronic, you can print it out. But we do encourage you to do everything electronic as much as possible. So that is the sharing feature. And if I click on the briefcase, I'm going to return back to the main page here. If I have lots of meetings, I can click on the little grid here, and then I can see them a little bit smaller views. Here you can see some documents or meetings that are grayed out, like this April 3rd meeting. It says documents not yet available. So this is one of the meetings that is currently in that unpublished state. So people will see the date when it's coming up, but the documents are not yet available. Another way to limit the number of meetings you have access to is you can just filter, turn on and off the different boards and committees or in different teams if you're in the Teams context. And of course, you can sort things different ways. You can search things as well within the app. And lastly, here at the top, we have a refresh button. When you launch the app, it's automatically going to refresh and connect to the server, get all the latest information, download and store the documents on the device in a secure and encrypted manner. So you don't have to think about that in most cases, but if you know that you're about to go offline, maybe get on an airplane or somewhere where you don't have internet access, and you want to make sure that you download everything before you go offline, so you're reading the latest material, you can click on this button and it will do a manual update for you. So those are the different features of the Board Papers and Team Papers apps for the meeting attendees. And I think that concludes my portion of the demo here. So I will return it back to Michael, I think.
Yes. Thank you, Nick. Let me just share my screen. Okay. Thank you very much for the demo. A few questions came in. Before we dive into the questions, I would like to point out that Pervasent offers a 60-day free trial. So if you are interested, we can set Board Papers or Team Papers up in your own environment, and you can use and test it for up to 60 days. This is a great opportunity for people who are interested in our products to experience the product, test it, use it for meetings, and see what benefits they get out of it. So Nick, a few questions came in. The first one is about the feature differences between iOS, the iPad, and the Android devices when you access the app using these devices.
Yeah, so the apps between the different platforms are almost identical. There are some UI differences because there are different operating systems on them, and we want to make sure that the apps kind of feel at home inside iOS versus Windows versus Android. There's one functional difference between them, and that is when it comes to Office documents, which will render inline inside the iOS apps, but not on Windows and Android. So if you upload Word documents, you need to have Word or Excel or whatever system installed on those devices in order to open them. But as we saw before during the demo, the system will automatically offer to convert documents to PDF. So in most cases, this should not be an issue.
Okay, thank you. There's another one. Is it possible to sign digitally with a certificate?
Oh, that's a good question. So as you saw in the demo, it's more of a visual signature where you basically sign on the document. And when you share that as a PDF, you will see it is a visual signature as well. We currently do not support digital signatures, primarily because it's hard to you have to have an infrastructure to distribute the certificates to all the different clients. We are working with integrations with some of the major digital signing tools like DocuSign and Blue Ink and some of the others. So if that is a requirement for you and you're using one of those existing certificate or signing services, please let us know and we can investigate, see how we can accommodate that for you.
Okay, then there is another question about the trial and the installation. How long does it take to get set up for a trial and do the installation?
So the installation is quite easy. The Board Papers and Team Papers apps are available in the Microsoft SharePoint store. And we will assist you from a screen sharing session, so we get on a Teams call, and it takes about half an hour to get things installed and up and running, so it's really quick. We also have an installation guide that's easy to follow, so if you're an experienced IT technician with experience with Office 365, you can certainly do everything yourself, and we have many customers who do that self-installation. And once the installation is complete, then we also do a training session, primarily of the board organizer or the PAs or the people who are conducting the meetings. So the thing I showed in the demo today for creating meetings, creating agenda items, uploading documents, we'll spend an hour going through those things in great detail, so you feel comfortable using it before you get started with board papers or team papers. And I want to point out that that training and the installation is no cost, and it's also included at no charge if you want to do the free trial.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick. You just answered another question that came in about training, whether Pervasent offers training or not. So Nick just answered that. And I think, let me check, I think these were the questions that came in. So before I hand it over to Tiziano, I would just like to say thank you very much. We are looking forward to hearing from you. You can reach out to us, to Nomasis, if you're interested in receiving a quote, starting a free trial. We can do another demo for you. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Tiziano, I hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. So we are at the end from this very interesting webinar from Pervasent about team papers and board papers. We hope you enjoyed the webinar, and if you have any questions, so please contact us directly, and we wish you all a very nice evening and see you soon. Thank you from our side.